The attacks featured cryptograms, slaves for the afterlife. The individual known as the Zodiac Killer, using the pseudonym, was an unidentified serial offender who carried out a series of murders in Northern California during the late 1960s. This particular case is widely regarded as one of the most renowned unsolved homicide mysteries in American history, garnering significant attention from amateur detectives and becoming a pervasive element in popular culture. Between December 1968 and October 1969, the Zodiac committed 5 confirmed murders in diverse settings across the San Francisco Bay Area, encompassing rural, urban, and suburban locations. The victims were typically young couples and a lone male taxi driver. The attacks occurred in Benicia, Vallejo, unincorporated Napa County, and San Francisco. Welcome to the place where you'll find your perfect accommodation. If you're the owner of a hotel, motel, or a similar establishment, don't hesitate to reach out for a potential collaboration. Notably, 2 individuals survived the Zodiac's assaults, while the perpetrator claimed responsibility for a total of 37 murders. The Zodiac Killer has also been linked to additional unsolved cases, extending beyond California, including some in Southern California and outside the state. The Zodiac, a notorious serial killer, adopted his moniker while sending menacing messages to local newspapers, threatening violence and bombings unless they were published. Some of these messages featured cryptograms, with the killer asserting that he was gathering victims as slaves for the afterlife. 2 of the 4 ciphers he created remain unsolved, and one was only decrypted in 2020. Despite numerous theories about the killer's identity, the only publicly named suspect by authorities was Arthur Lee Allen, a former teacher and convicted sex offender who passed away in 1992. Although the Zodiac stopped communicating in writing around 1974, the case's unique characteristics have sustained international interest for over half a century. The San Francisco Police Department marked the case as inactive in April 2004, but it was later reopened, and investigations continue in Vallejo, Napa, and Solano counties. The California Department of Justice has kept an open case file on the Zodiac murders since 1969. The Zodiac Killer claimed 37 murders, but investigators confirm 7 victims, 5 of whom died and 2 survived. David Arthur Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen were shot on December 20, 1968, on Lake Herman Road in Benicia, California. Michael Renaud Mageau and Darlene Elizabeth Farron were shot on July 4, 1969, in the parking lot of Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo, California. Mageau survived, Farron died. Brian Calvin Hartnell and Cecilia and Shepard were stabbed on September 27, 1969, at Lake Berryessa in Napa County, California. Hartnell survived, Shepard died on September 29. Paul Lee Stein was shot and killed on October 11, 1969, in the Presidio Heights neighborhood of San Francisco. On December 20, 1968, high school students Betty Lou Jensen and David Arthur Faraday were shot and killed on Lake Herman Road near Benicia, during their first date. They had planned to attend a Christmas concert after visiting a friend and stopping at a local restaurant. Around 10:15 p.m., Faraday parked his mother's Rambler in a Lover's Lane gravel turnout. Their bodies were discovered by a nearby resident, Stella Borges, shortly after 11 p.m. Despite an investigation by the Solano County Sheriff's Department, no leads were developed. Author Robert Graysmith later speculated that another car may have pulled in before 11 p.m., with the killer possibly ordering the couple out of their car. The killer shot Faraday as he exited, then shot Jensen as she fled, immediately leaving the scene. On July 4, 1969, Darlene Farron and Michael Mageau were parked at Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo when a second car drove into the lot and parked near them. After leaving briefly, the second car returned, parked behind them, and the driver approached with a flashlight and a 9mm Luger. The killer shone the flashlight into their eyes before firing 5 shots. Mageau and Farron were hit, with bullets passing through Mageau into Farron. At 12:40 a.m. on July 5, 1969, a man called the Vallejo Police Department to claim responsibility for the attack, also admitting to the murders of Jensen and Faraday 6.5 months earlier. The call was traced to a nearby gas station phone booth. Farron was pronounced dead, while Mageau survived despite being shot multiple times. He described the attacker as a 26 to 30-year-old, 195 to 200-pound white male with short, light brown curly hair. On August 1, 1969, 3 letters, allegedly from the killer, were received at the Vallejo Times-Herald, the San Francisco Chronicle, and the San Francisco Examiner. These letters, deemed to be written by someone brooding and isolated, claimed credit for the Lake Herman Road and Blue Rock Springs shootings. Each letter contained 1/3 of a 408-symbol cryptogram, with the killer demanding publication on the front page or threatening more killings. The threatened murders did not occur, and all parts of the cryptogram were eventually published. On August 7, the Examiner received a letter beginning with "Dear Editor, this is the Zodiac speaking," marking the first use of the Zodiac moniker. Responding to Vallejo Police Chief Jack E. Stiltz's request for more details, the Zodiac included unreleased murder details and predicted that cracking his code would lead to his capture. On the next day, Donald and Betty Hardin decoded the cryptogram, revealing a misspelled message referencing "the most dangerous game" and the killer's motive of collecting slaves for the afterlife. On September 27, 1969, Pacific Union College students Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were picnicking at Lake Berryessa. A white male, over 5 feet 11 inches, weighing more than 170 pounds, approached wearing a black hood with sunglasses and a bib-like device featuring a cross-circle symbol. Claiming to be an escaped convict, he spoke of killing a guard and stealing a car in Colorado or Montana. He demanded their car and money for a trip to Mexico, as the stolen vehicle was too hot. The killer brought pre-cut plastic clothesline and instructed Shepard to tie up Hartnell before doing the same with her. After checking and tightening Hartnell's bonds, he drew a knife and stabbed them both. The killer later called the Napa County Sheriff's Department from a downtown Napa car wash, confessing to the double murder. Detectives found a palm print on the phone but couldn't match it to any suspect. Hartnell survived and provided a detailed description of the attacker. Detective Ken Narlow worked on the case until his retirement in 1987. 2 weeks later, on October 11, 1969, a white male passenger entered Paul Stein's taxi in downtown San Francisco, requesting a ride to Presidio Heights. Stein drove past the requested destination, and at around 9:55 p.m., the passenger shot him once in the head with a 9mm handgun. Patrol officers Falcon Zelms, responding to the call, briefly encountered a white male fitting the description. However, a mix-up in descriptions, with police expecting a black suspect, led them to pass without stopping. The Stein murder was later claimed by the Zodiac in a letter to the Chronicle, including a torn section of Stein's bloody shirt as proof. The Zodiac's threat about killing schoolchildren on a bus was also mentioned in the letter. SFPD detectives Armstrong and Tashi investigated an estimated 2,500 suspects over several years. This marked the last officially confirmed murder by the Zodiac killer. On October 22, 1969, an individual claiming to be the Zodiac called the Oakland Police Department, demanding the appearance of lawyers F. Lee Bailey or Melvin Belli on a talk show. Belli agreed to appear on AM San Francisco, hosted by Jim Dunbar. During the show, the Zodiac caller, using the name Sam, expressed fear of the gas chamber and arranged a meeting with Belli in Daly City. However, the caller, later identified as mental patient Eric Weil, did not show up, leading investigators to conclude he was not the Zodiac. On November 8, the Zodiac mailed a card with another cryptogram, Z340, which remained unsolved for over 51 years. In December 2020, an international team deciphered it, revealing a message where the Zodiac denied being the Sam, stating he was unafraid of the gas chamber. Throughout 1970, Zodiac maintained communication with authorities through letters and greeting cards to the press. In a 1970 letter, he introduced himself with a 13-character cipher, denying involvement in a recent police station bombing but asserting the allure of killing a cop. The letter included a bomb diagram for a school bus, emphasizing Zodiac 10, SFPD 0. In 1970 greeting card, Zodiac hinted at an upcoming event and demanded publication of his details, adding a threat of a bus bomb unless people wore nice Zodiac buttons. A June 26, 1970 letter expressed disappointment about the lack of Zodiac buttons, claiming to have shot a man in a parked car. Included was a Phillips 66 roadmap with a cipher and instructions, allegedly leading to a buried bomb set to detonate in the fall, never decoded or found. The note concluded with Zodiac 12, SFPD 0. In a July 24, 1970 letter, Zodiac claimed credit for the Kathleen Johns abduction. In 1970, the Chronicle received a card signed with Zodiac symbol and cross, drawn in blood, featuring a message formed by pasting words from the Chronicle. Investigators deemed it highly probable to be from Zodiac. On October 27, 1970, Avery received a Halloween card signed with AZ and the Zodiac symbol. Inside, the handwritten note read, "Peekaboo, you are doomed." The threat made front-page news in the Chronicle. Shortly after, an anonymous letter pointed out similarities between Zodiac's actions and the unsolved Bates murder in Riverside. Avery reported this in the Chronicle on November 16, 1970. After the Lake Tahoe card, Zodiac went silent for almost 3 years. The Chronicle received a letter postmarked January 29, 1974, praising The Exorcist from 1973 as the best satirical comedy that I have ever seen. The letter featured a verse from the Mikado and an unexplained symbol, concluding with a new score, Me equals 37, SFPD equals 0.